What if you could immediately expand the sales force of your home health, hospice, or private duty agency without having to hire one more full-time employee? Now imagine if your nurses and caregivers were empowered with a few deceptively simple tactics that would result in more income and a bigger impact for your agency, ensuring that more people get the care they deserve. That is where Melanie Stover, OT and founder of Home Care Sales, is a senior care sales and marketing genius with 17 years of experience and 6 books on the topic, including a #1 bestseller. Her new book that she's going to give you today, called Turn Your Clinical and Caregiving Staff into the Greatest Salespeople in Your Agency, Even if They Hate the Word Sales. Melanie has spent 2 decades perfecting a duplicatable process that delivers consistent results. And she's with us today to share her method for setting your sales strategy and taking the proper steps in the right order to 10x your referrals, get more patients on census, and cause a quantum leap in your business. Let's meet Melanie Stover. All right, you have a super interesting story. First of all, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and you've got an interesting story about how you got started in this business, so why don't we start with that?
So it really started with my grandfather. On the day my grandfather was diagnosed with polio, my grandmother found out that she was pregnant with her 3rd child. Within a year, he was a quadriplegic and in a wheelchair. The doctors at that time, it was the 50s, and they simply said to my grandmother, put him in a nursing home. And of course, there is where he would have lived out the rest of his life. However, my grandmother, being the Spitfire that she was, said, no way, we're bringing him home. And we turned the dining room into his bedroom. And he lived on that 1st floor of my grandmother's house, really being a stay-at-home dad before that was cool.
Yeah.
And my grandmother went out into the world to be the breadwinner. And we have all kinds of fascinating stories from my mom and my uncles about how he navigated through the home and really was an integral part of their family. And that's where the desire for helping people stay at home really comes from.
It's very, very nice. It's a great story. So you've worked for a long time in this industry, and how has that brought you to do the work that you do today?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Because it was through those stories that, my grandmother would talk about the ingenious ways that he would adapt equipment and really try to live his life to the fullest, that it instilled in me how to become an OT. I didn't know it at the time, but it was about how do we adapt people's environments so that they could live in their own homes longer, and thus is the foundation of what every OT does. During the time that I was a clinician in the home for VNA, what I experienced was there were upturns and downturns in my patient population. And one time, a staffer lovingly said to me, well, if you want more patients, you should just go get them. And I thought, oh my gosh, how would I even go get more patients to be on my census so that I could treat more patients and have my full caseload? And then it dawned on me, I did have that power. And there was no one more powerful than I was, because I was intimately knowledgeable about what I did in the home, that I had that amazing power and knowledge to go out in the field and get a patient. And so I tried it. Now I stumbled and failed a lot. And I had the opportunity to attend some sales trainings and became better at it. And I realized that through sales, I could impact more people. I could gain more patients to come on service with us. Rose up through the ranks of a district sales manager, national sales trainer. And when I moved to Memphis, Tennessee in 2001, it was right around the time of 9/11. And I thought I would just be another sales manager. Well, of course, at that time, the job market had kind of dried up, and a Mid-South hospital system hired me as a part-time consultant. And it was there I founded home care sales and grew it into what it is today.
It's very impressive, very impressive. So, I mean, you went from the business into being an entrepreneur and becoming a master of sales, which is very unusual. It really is.
We lovingly refer to ourselves as the unicorns. The unicorns are the clinicians who also love sales and can do it flawlessly.
That's very, very good. So why is it important for agencies to change their traditional approaches to growing their census and referrals?
So we're in a changing landscape right now. Payment models are changing, and we're unsure. Market share is getting gobbled up. There's some consolidations going on, and people are thinking, how can we thrive in this environment? And one of the ways that we can do that is through empowering our clinicians to help us with gaining patients on census.
Okay, so what are some of the myths when it comes to an agency following the model that you've implemented?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The number one thing is that owners will say to me, our nurses won't do this. They will not, quote unquote, sell, because quite frankly, they think sales is that slimy used cars, gross thing that they sure want to be distanced themselves from. Absolutely. But what we know is that for us, it's about profound service. So the first thing that we have to do is help those nurses, therapists, and caregivers change their mindset from sales is gross and yucky, and I'm not going to do it, to how can we help more patients get the services that they deserve.
All right. So why don't you talk a little bit about the solution that you've developed, and you've got the 5 stars of success, for example. So you've got a whole system that's repeatable, it's predictable, it consistently produces results.
Absolutely. And this is just simply elevating your nurses or therapists or caregivers into that customer service experience. We're like upgrading their skills, if you will. So we know that they provide wonderful patient care at their agencies. Now it's about how can they create an experience for the referral sources, the patients, and anyone that they touch during their normal course of caring for patients. And we do that through the 5 stars. And there are really 5 principles that we look at, and they're very simple on the surface. But when we go deeper, what we understand is those very simple tactics that we teach allows them to impact their referral sources or a building that they're going in, or even the families, to increase the customer satisfaction.
Very nice. And what are the benefits that your clients receive then?
Well, obviously, firstly, the patients and the referral sources will get an increase in satisfaction, right? We all know that that's what we're going for, is increasing patient satisfaction. But I also want to honor the fact that they are going to get more patients on service, which then will get them more revenue and ultimately get them to live the lifestyle that they want to live.
Very nice. So can you give me an example of how you've helped others accomplish this? I know you've worked with a lot of clients over the years.
So one that comes to mind that I am working with now that I just adore is a nurse owner. So she is an agency owner, private duty, in the Northeast, and she is super smart. She is a master's prepared nurse who has, for the last 11 years, been in business, had marketing and sales people, felt like she wanted more, felt like she just wasn't getting enough from her sales and marketing people. And at the time that she called me last year, she did not have any sales and marketing people at all in her agency. She said, I want to take a break from that, and I want to focus on holistically, how can I help the agency, and how could my caregivers help the agency grow our business? Her intention was she wanted to grow her business to possibly look at selling and retiring. So we've been working together this last year, and the thing that she has been so great about is empowering her caregivers with really simple techniques. We took that word sales because she really did not enjoy that idea of sales, and we took it into profound service. That every time we touch a client, in her case, lives, we're going to impact them and their families. So once we shifted the mindset, we were also then able to implement one of the S's that you so talked about here before on the 5 stars of success. You got
that's
a lot
bit
of
of a
S, right?
tongue
Got a
twister,
lot of
isn't it?
S's there. It would allow her caregivers to work with her clients in the assisted living. She does a lot of assisted living work, and get more clients through having them ask good questions when they go in, how they're interacting with the staff, asking for additional patients, and obviously coming back. Now, her results this year have been this, that she's grown 30%, and so much so that her accountant called her last week and said, "You're growing so fast, and what are we going to do with all this money?" Her original goal was to grow and possibly look at selling. When I spoke to her last week on coaching call, she said to me, "I think I'm going to go for another $1 million. Let's keep going."
That's awesome. That's very good. That is a glowing endorsement. So I know you've got some other examples too. So what's one more example of a client, a typical scenario that you deal with?
So this one is a Midwest home health and private duty agency. They too were in assisted livings, and they really wanted to improve their customer service to that assisted living. One of the things that we know is that assisted livings love us to be part of the community, really integrate with them. And they felt like the nurses and therapists were kind of coming into the agents or into the assisted living like a ghost in the night. They would come in, they would do their treatments, and they would leave. And they wouldn't necessarily interact with the staff, so we did one simple technique, and that was develop a communication protocol. And that was through the S of sharing. So how do we get into the building? And we have something that's called going 3D, making sure that you're touching 3 people from that assisted living on the way in and on the way out. It allows them to expand their touch points, allowing them to integrate deeper into that assisted living, and then using the residents that they are already working with as what we call patient vignettes, allowing them to describe that type of patient and ask for another patient or resident like Mrs. Jones, thus increasing their census. This year, they're 19.6 year over year in assisted livings. That's roughly about an additional $360,000 in revenue.
Very, very nice. So now you deal with cultural challenges as well sometimes, which is, nurses and integrating them into the whole process. So how have you worked with nurses so they can have a huge positive impact inside the organization and help build and grow it at the same time?
So we all like to talk about sales culture, that the agency has this tremendous sales culture to help more patients get the services that they need. And what we know is that there's always been this sales ops rub. So how can we develop a frictionless system so we're all on the same team, that we're all just trying to get the care for those patients and their families? And the best way to do that is bring us together for a common goal. And that goal is to get the referral and deliver excellent care to our clients and families.
It's very, very nice. So you've got a history, decades of phenomenal results in working with your clients. So how can someone learn more about your process, get a copy of your best-selling book, hire you as a speaker, or just work with you?
Oh, thank you for asking. It's really, really easy.
All right.
All you have to do is go to homecaresalesbook.com, sign up and get a free copy of my book, and we look forward to working with them.
All right, fantastic. So your next step is really, really easy. Again, head on over. You can spend some time meeting Melanie and head on over right now to homecaresalesbook.com. Get a copy of her book, find out how to work with her, how to have her come in and speak to your organization or help grow it too. Thanks so much for watching.